The Council of Worlds was not meant for chaos. The Grand Chamber, a testament to galactic unity, echoed with the panicked cries of thousands of delegates. Light from the artificial sun overhead glinted off polished scales, shimmering feathers, and the smooth chitin of 100 alien species. Yet all beauty was lost amidst the discord, a discord reflected on the massive view screens that dominated the chamber. Where once there had been images of vibrant star systems, there was now only an absence. Vast swaths of the galaxy were reduced to lifeless black voids, their vibrant tapestry of stars snuffed out. The Eradicator, the name whispered first in fear, then in desperation, moved with relentless hunger across the galactic map. In the farthest corner of this cacophony stood a single human. Admiral Thomas Kane had the seasoned build of a man more used to the bridge of a warship than the polished marble of the council chambers. His face was a mask of controlled fury, his eyes as cold as the interstellar void. Unlike the delegates around him, there was no hand-wringing, no pleading cries to forgotten deities. 1,000 years of warfare had forged something different in humanity, a stoic resilience born from countless crucible moments. The humans were new to the galactic stage. Belatedly admitted to the Council of Worlds, they had arrived neither with offers of advanced technology nor with promises of peaceful enlightenment. Instead, they bore the scars of their own turbulent past. There was a darkness in their eyes, a shadow of battles won and lost against human and alien foes. And it was this darkness that made them objects of fascination, mistrust, and grudging respect. Kane watched as another system went dark on the view screens. "You bicker and stall while a galaxy burns." His voice cut through the din, a sharp indictment in standard galactic. "Your warships, marvels of engineering and gleaming beauty, are as useless as toys against this thing." A ripple of hissed curses and offended chirps answered him. The Eradicator was beyond their understanding, a single impossibly vast entity that consumed not just planets, but stars themselves. It arrived without warning, a vortex of utter blackness in the depths of space. Conventional weapons were useless, swallowed without a trace. No negotiations were possible, and no signal was sent back from its encroaching abyss. It had become the ultimate existential threat, and the Council of Worlds crumbled in the face of it. "There is only one thing that creatures might understand," Kane continued, heedless of the offended murmurs. "The same thing that has saved humanity from extinction 100 times over. Raw, unrelenting force." "You speak of madness, human!" A shrill voice rose above the din. It belonged to a Silurian delegate, her feathered crest raised in outrage. "Your kind prizes brute strength above all else. Is this your solution? To drown the galaxy in blood?" Kane didn't flinch. "Your technology has failed. Your diplomacy is a joke to this thing," he countered, his voice glacial. "And if you believe you can reason with an entity that erases suns, then I pity your naivety." The chamber erupted in 100 arguments, but Kane focused on a cluster of Valorian delegates through it all. The Valorians were an ancient race, cautious and bound by tradition. Yet their military was respected, their warriors renowned. If any species could grasp the desperation in his proposal, it would be them. After what felt like an eternity, an elderly Valorian in shimmering gold armor stepped forward. "The human is distasteful," he admitted, his voice a low rumble. "But not wrong. We are outmatched. Perhaps a different approach is required." A wave of hesitant agreement swept the chamber. The Council, in desperation, had always possessed one saving grace: pragmatism. They knew when a gamble was their only hope. And so it was that Thomas Kane, a human admiral, found himself in command of a fleet never before seen in the galaxy. It was a hodgepodge of vessels bearing the crests of a dozen species. Sleek Silurian cruisers with precision weaponry, next to bulky Valorian battleships bristling with cannons. Even the reclusive Eurathians, known for their psychic abilities, had sent a contingent of their enigmatic bioorganic ships. It was an alliance built not on trust, but on the sudden, undeniable need to survive. And at its forefront were the human ships. Decades of fighting pirates on galactic fringes and rogue warlords in disputed sectors had left humanity with a unique battle doctrine. Kane's ships were scarred and ugly, welded with mismatched armor, boasting hastily constructed weapon emplacements that defied any aesthetic sense. The Council scoffed at these crude displays of human practicality, until the weapons were revealed. The humans, faced with an enemy that devoured energy, had turned to their past. Nuclear missiles, deemed barbaric and outlawed a century ago, were pulled out of mothballed arsenals. Vast plasma cannons, experimental and wildly unpredictable, were refitted onto warships. Even jury-rigged asteroid launchers, towing massive chunks of rock filled with explosives, were added to the fleet, an act of such desperate ingenuity that it drew uneasy laughter from the aliens. The strange armada took position in the final hours before the Eradicator was estimated to reach the next star system. Kane stood on the bridge of his flagship, the repurposed heavy cruiser Valiant. His crew, a mix of grizzled veterans and young recruits with eyes too wide, was fueled by fear and the manic energy of cornered prey. Unlike the disciplined formations favored by the other races, the human ships were spread out in a chaotic pattern, a calculated mess designed to confuse any potential targeting systems. Kane's tactics were simple and mirrored the age-old doctrine of Earthside naval combat: overwhelm with volume of fire. Subtlety be damned. The Eradicator materialized not with a flash of light, but with a sickening twist of reality itself. Space warped, then tore open, revealing a vortex of impossible blackness that made the assembled fleet seem like insignificant insects. At a single barked word from Kane, the Armada unleashed hell. Waves of missiles, hundreds upon hundreds of them, streaked towards the darkness. Each carried payloads that could level a small moon. The plasma cannons roared alongside them, hurling blinding bolts of superheated energy into the void. The Valorian battleships opened fire, magnetic accelerators flinging dense projectiles with terrifying velocity. The conventional energy weapons vanished into the Eradicator's abyss without a trace. But the missiles, blind and simple, found their marks. The blackness rippled and flared with each detonation, the blinding flashes painting grotesque shadows across the bridge of the Valiant. For a single heart-stopping moment, it seemed as if the entity might simply consume their desperate barrage and continue its advance. Then, something changed. An impossible sound echoed across the comms, a groan of titanic proportions that resonated not just in the speakers, but deep within the bones of everyone aboard Kane's ship. The Eradicator flickered, its edges twisting and spasming under the relentless assault. And then it paused. The entity that had devoured worlds was checked, held at bay by the sheer force of defiance the humans had unleashed. Kane stared at the tactical display, a flicker of disbelief warring with a grim satisfaction. It wasn't a victory, but it was a chance. Across the comms, the alien ship captains raised a wave of stuttering cheers and awed curses. The humans had done the impossible, not defeated the Eradicator, but forced it to acknowledge them. It was an acknowledgement born of violence, a testament to humanity's unyielding spirit. The battle raged on for days. The Eradicator twisted and warped, seemingly struggling to comprehend the ferocity of the attack. More ships were lost, brave souls vanishing into the darkness without a trace. Yet, the entity's advance halted, then began an agonizingly slow retreat, as if every meter was fought for with a cosmic strain. Ultimately, it wasn't a single weapon or tactic that saved the galaxy. It was the defiant spirit of 1,000 species ignited by the brutal example of humanity. When reports of the battle spread, Other systems, gripped by fear, found something within themselves to fight back. The Eurathians, venturing outwards, discovered their psychic abilities could disrupt the Eradicator's form, creating agonizing disharmony. Others mirrored humanity's tactics, rediscovering mothballed weapons or repurposing civilian technology for war. The Eradicator was driven back, not in a single apocalyptic clash, but through 1,000 desperate battles. It retreated into the blackest depths of the galaxy, wounded, but perhaps pondering the cost of its hunger amidst a universe that suddenly refused to be devoured. Thomas Kane became a legend and a reluctant ambassador for humanity. The species who had arrived so recently at the galactic table were now undeniably at its forefront, their scars badges of honor. But for Kane, there was no rest, no triumphant return. The Eradicator lurked, and across the galaxy humanity prepared. They built new weapons, forged new alliances, and their ships, those scarred and defiant vessels, patrolled the edge of the known, forever ready for the return of the darkness.